Hello, everyone. This is virtual Mrs. Reyes again. Sorry I can't be there, but here is the instruction on video. Today is Friday, May 3rd. Sorry, I need to type this right here and make that correction. And today's learning objective is students can identify direct quote and interpret character perspective. For today, for your reading log on Friday, it will be on perspective. You're going to finish chapter 23 and start on page 298 and stop on page 304. We're going to start with the reading log first to make this a smooth transition so your sub can only play this one time as opposed to multiple times throughout the day. So for this one right here, reading log first and then your no red ink. And today your concept for that one is hyphenated verbs, adjectives, nouns, which is due today as well. Now for the no red ink, this right here, I'll go over the definition, the example for you. But before I do, let me go ahead and go over today's agenda. In addition to no red ink, you are going to finish your selfie SBAC practice that I handed out yesterday. It is due at the end of class today, and it's valued at 13 points. So that these two are the priority right here, and they are in bold blue for you. Additionally, when you have time, you should be working on your chapter 23 questions. You have lots to do. And once again, the flip book is due at the end of May, possibly the last week when a lot of things are due. In fact, your essay, your test. So don't procrastinate as it will pile up on you at the very end. Please keep in mind that your reading log is due Monday upon your return, and it's valued at 25 points every single day we've completed. There have been no days that have been scratched off. And you can turn in your reading log early if you're done. Just make sure your name is on it and hand it to your sub so she can place it in the wired tray. Please also know that you have 5 Read Theory quizzes due Friday, May 31st. This is the last set of 5 that you will have to do. And please continue to bring your book. And as I read, you want to follow along. So let's go ahead and break down some definitions and expectations. So the first thing I do want to mention, which I talked about it earlier, yesterday that is, when I passed out your SBAC practice for this informational text on the selfie topic right here, you want to read the first page of information and then answer 10 questions that follow. Notice that the questions for this one is a little different from the cell phone one that you had earlier this week. Now, this one says summarize the text. And you want to read the directions carefully. It says use key details from the text to support your answer. So for number 7, it has a 3-point value right here as opposed to the cell phone one that you did. Now, why is it different? Again, look at the instructions. For the cell phone one, all it asked you was, what was a central idea? That's another fancy word for summary or main idea. So in addition to that one, finding the central idea, what this entire article is about, they want you to pull in a quote to back it up. And as you know, every time you have a quote, a key detail, or concrete evidence from the text to support your answer, you need to back it up with a response. This quote shows, this quote reveals, this quote proves, for example. So again, I'm looking for a minimum of 3 sentences in this paragraph response in order for you to get those 3 points. And again, we are mimicking the SBAC, so I encourage you to do your best so we can prepare you for it. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is your no red ink assignment. So again, these 2 assignments are due today, so that's your priority after going over the reading log. Now, for the no red ink, these are the new ideas that you're going to go over. And again, I'm preparing you for the SBAC, so again, this may come up. Today, you're going to go over hyphenated things, hyphenated nouns, adjectives, adverbs, for example. Now, it's estimated at 20 to 40 minutes. That's a lot of time considering you have lots to do. So you may not finish in time. However, from past experience, I do know that no red ink kind of overestimates And you guys are pretty fast on this one. So for this specific practice, you want to read the directions again very carefully. For example, this one says, select the compound adjective that describes the noun in bold. The bold word is toad. What two words, that's another word for compound, adjectives specifically, describe the toad? Well, it's quiet, but that's not a compound. Oh, well behaved, because you can almost imagine that being hyphenated right there. So again, we're going to put it over here and submit it. The next one is, this character asked me to drive by the house to water the plants while he was on vacation. Read the directions. Is the bold text a compound noun or a compound verb and preposition? To plus a verb, remember that's called an infinitive. Technically, it is a verb. And by is a preposition. So again, it is a compound verb and a preposition. So we're going to click on this. Hopefully, having gone over all the parts of speech earlier this year will help you focus on this. I do know the hyphenated concept is new to you, but all the others are not. So you should be able to identify accordingly. So after I do the reading log with you, you are to transition to your SBAC, making sure that's turned in today so you get full credit. If not, you should use your Clockbuster so you're not penalized when you do turn it in on Monday. Again, your SBAC right here is due at the end of class today, Friday, and no red ink is also due today as well. Now, let's go ahead and go back to your reading log for today. And your sub will not stamp Thursday's portion. So for those of you who did not get a chance to write your summary for Thursday's section, this is your opportunity right now to take advantage of it. So when you turn it in come Monday, I will not mark you down, penalize you for this area. So for Friday's section, it is May 3rd. The page continuing in chapter 23 is pages 298 to 304. Now, yesterday we read about the jury, the jury, and Tom Robinson now is being sent to another prison. And during this process, Atticus is talking to Jim, who has all of these questions. And one of them is, how did the jury get selected? And we come to find out that Atticus said he chose Cunningham, Mr. Cunningham, for a reason. And it happens to be that Mr. Cunningham was the one person who voted in favor of him, of Tom Robinson. And the kids right here, Jim, Scout, and Dill, see kind of the beauty in Cunningham, the innocence in him, and the kindness in him that that the kids want to continue to invite Walter Cunningham. Remember, this is the boy in the beginning of the story that was invited by Jim because Scout, being her mischievous self, beat him up in the very beginning, or attempted to in the playground. So as we read, you want to find a quote, and we're going to talk about the perspective here. We're going to choose it from the perspective of Aunt Alex. How does she view herself, and how is she viewed by others? So let's go ahead, have your book out, turn a page. Instead of 298, clear transition, 297, the last paragraph. When Jim is shocked to hear about the Cunningham. One of the Cunninghams? Jim yelped. I didn't recognize any of them. You're joking. He looked at Atticus from the corners of his eyes. Page 298. One of their connections. On a hunch, I didn't strike him. Just on a hunch. Could have, but I didn't. Jolly Moses, Jim said reverently. 1 minute they're trying to kill him, and the next they're trying to turn him loose. I'll never understand those folks as long as I live. And we learned here by that comment that the Cunningham was, mean at first, using the N-word loosely. And now all of a sudden, he has a heart, a compassion for Tom Robinson. Atticus said, you just had to know them. He said the Cunninghams hadn't taken anything from or off anybody since they migrated to the New World. He said the other thing about them was, once you earned their respect, they were for you tooth and nail. Atticus said he had a feeling, nothing more than a suspicion, that they left the jail that night with considerable respect for the Finches. Then two, he said. It took a thunderbolt plus another Cunningham to make one of them change his mind. If we had two of that crowd, we'd have a hung jury. Guys, a hung jury is a word used in the courthouse where um, not the majority, but they have enough people, if not 6 out of 12 people in the jury selection to either vote where they have opposing views. Half would agree and half would disagree, and they would have to go through this process again. We know because of the guilty verdict that it wasn't a hung jury, but they came very close. Jim said slowly, "You mean you actually put on the jury a man who wanted to kill you the night before? How could you take such a risk, Atticus? How could you?" When you analyze it, there was a little risk. There's no difference between one man who's going to convict and another man who's going to convict, is there? There's a faint difference between a man who's going to convict and a man who's a little disturbed in his mind, isn't there? He was the only uncertainty on the whole list. What family, was that man to Mr. Walter Cunningham? I asked. Atticus rose, stretched, and yawned. It was not even our bedtime, but we knew he wanted a chance to read his newspaper. He picked it up, folded it, and tapped my head. Let me see now, he droned to himself. I've got it. Double first cousin. How can that be? 2 sisters married 2 brothers. That's all I'll tell you. You'll figure it out. Oh, I tortured myself and decided if I married Jim and Dale had a sister whom he married, our children would be double first cousins. Gee, Jim, I said when Atticus had gone. They're funny folks. Did you hear that, Auntie? Aunt Alex was hooking a rug and not watching us, but she was listening. She sat in her chair with her work basket beside it, her rug spread across her lap. Why, ladies, hooked wooden rugs on boiling nights never came clear to me. I heard it, she said. I remember the distant disastrous occasion when I rushed to young Walter Cunningham's defense. Now I was glad I've done it. Soon school starts. I'm gonna ask Walter Cunningham to dinner. I planned, having forgotten my private resolve to beat him up the next time I saw him. He can stay over sometimes after school, too. Atticus could drive him back to Ulster. Maybe he could spend a night with us sometime, okay, Jim? We'll see about that, Aunt Alex said. A declaration with her was always a threat, never a promise. Surprised, I turned to her. Why not, Auntie? They're good folks. She looked at me over her sewing glasses. Jean Louise, there's no doubt in my mind they're good folks, but they're not our kind of folks. Jim says. She means they're yappy, Scout. Well, what's a yap? Oh, tacky. They're like fiddling and things like that. Well, I do too. Don't be silly, Jean Louise, said Aunt Alex. The thing is, you can scrub Walter Cunningham till he shines. You can put him in shoes and a new suit, but it'll never be like Jim. Besides, there's a drinking streak in that family a mile wide. Finch women aren't interested in that sort of people. Ooh, right there, guys. In this book, it is not only discrimination against color, against gender, as we read in the last chapter, but now, obviously, there is discrimination among the classes. So let's go ahead and move on to the next component in your commentary right here. I'd like you to find a quote that shows Aunt Alex being a bit of showing discrimination. Now, the question is, how does the character view herself? Aunt Alex refuses to invite the Cunninghams because she views herself as, and you want to fill in the blank, and then another section is, how is she viewed by others? The kids want to correct her old ways because. So once again, for the remainder of the period, you can choose to complete this reading log right here, which is not due until Monday. Your priority today is to make sure that the SBAC practice is done and also that your warm-up for the no writing portion is done. And then you can move on to your reading log and your chapter questions as well. This all, as you know, plus the classroom agenda can be seen on your Google Classroom as we end this video.